Can't remember. Is on map when plotting for torpedoes. What's the key? Press to draw a straight line. Okay, so for anybody that is not aware, if you use your ruler tool, right, and you click to make a dot on the map, don't move your mouse. Just hold down like the S key, right? And if you were, say, click over here, hold down the D, right, just WASD, and you will make perfectly true north, south, east, west lines, right? So just click, hold down S for down, and then you can go whichever way with A and D. These guys are sitting suspiciously. Whoa, did you hear me? My God, can you hear me? Sir, this is very... Don't turn away. Tell me how you feel. Tell me what you're thinking right now. Look at the soulful expression in his eyes. This dude doesn't care, I don't think. He's just like, yep, the ceiling's here. This is where the ceiling lives. Now he's going to go on tour. This dude is very concerned about the torpedoes. Good for you, my man. That's what we like to see. Sailor who cares. All right. Now, these two gentlemen are making sure that this gentleman is making sure that these two gentlemen are doing their jobs. You see, the more managers you have in place, the better. That's what the military has taught me. The more people that are making sure you're doing what you need to be doing instead of doing something themselves is more betterer. That's how this works. If you don't like it, you shouldn't have joined. Huh? It's voluntary service, people. My God, you look terrified. Okay. Hey, bro. He's like, I don't care. Are my pictures here? Oh, second one looks relatively good. Yes. That's kind of horrifying, isn't it? That looks like a psych ward. Your house looks like a psych ward, my dude. Just saying. Looking for a week with... I mean, I did do 6 months on a frigate. Oh, bro is working out? He's just giving her. He's like, I'm getting my steps in. Closing my rings or whatever Apple people say. I don't know. I don't have an Apple. Are the engines here, boys? Is that one there? Checks out. Cool. What about you? Do you have an engine? Okay. Are you taking notes on... Yes, that is a cross-section of our boat. Good. Good, good. You're doing great. You should run faster and slam the door. Thank you. We're gonna die. We're gonna die. You guys know that? Oh my God, they've barely started. Okay, let's, yeah. I don't think we're in any danger. How do you choose which type of torpedo to use? It's dependent, well, okay, so by type, do you mean magnetic and impact, or by type, do you mean the actual type of the torpedo? Like T1, T2, T3, T5. That'll be important. Both, okay. So, all right. Could somebody go ahead and use the YouTube command, please, and bring up my YouTube link? On my YouTube channel, I have a video called Let's Talk Torpedoes. I have one called Let's Talk Torpedoes, and that'll give you pretty much all the information you're looking for. However, in a nutshell, oh, we're running out of air. I kind of forgot about the need to breathe. Let's do that. Let's go up and breathe, shall we? It's getting kind of important. Bloop. There we go. We're breathing. All is well. What was I saying? Yes. So a T1 torpedo, it will cost you money. T1 torpedoes are steam driven. All torpedoes in the game require maintenance to use, even though it's technically warming a torpedo. And the only torpedoes that actually required to be warmed in real life were electrically driven torpedoes. They needed a warm dielectric liquid pumped into them so that they could do their job. So a T1 torpedo will still require maintenance before firing. However, it's not called heating anymore. It's just called maintenance. It's steam driven, which means in good lighting conditions, a warship could potentially see the bubbles coming because it will leave a trail of bubbles behind it. Okay. That being said, a T1 torpedo is 25% more accurate than a T2 torpedo. It also has a range I don't know the exact number of the range. What I can tell you is with a T1 torpedo, I have reliably struck a target at 6.7 kilometers. 6.7 kilometers, and I hit the target, no problems whatsoever. So my best guess would be somewhere around the 7 to 8 kilometer mark would be where it should sit. That being said, I do not recommend firing at 6.7 kilometers. Please bear that in mind. Now, a T2 torpedo is the first electric torpedo in the game. Since it's electric, warming it becomes much, much more important, and it cannot be detected by the enemy, which means to say that they can't see a trail of bubbles because there is no trail of bubbles to see. That being said, it is the very first electric torpedo, which means it's poor. It's not very good. It will do the job, but I would fire 2 torpedoes at a time if I were you, because they have a much higher dud rate. The biggest issue with the T1 torpedo is it has an exact maximum distance of 5 kilometers. So if your target is 5,002 meters away, the torpedo will dud, which means to say it didn't even reach target before it ended its run. It'll just stop in the water. It just stops there. It just sits there floating for no reason. Anyway, so that's the problem with T2s. T3 torpedoes are the absolute sweet spot of torpedoes. They are the best torpedoes in the game, hands down. They are electric, so they are undetectable by the enemy. They have a... I'm not sure of the maximum distance of a T3, but the T3 can go more than 5 kilometers. I can tell you that as a matter of fact. And it's overall the most reliable torpedo in the game. So the least amount of dud risk, provided, of course, you have it warmed, whether your mechanic has thorough, et cetera, et cetera. There's different variables, but it is the best torpedo in the game, hands down, even if you don't have those things. A T5 torpedo is a noise-seeking torpedo. They home in on propeller noise. So the T5 will only ever strike your target in the rear because it will steer itself to the rear of your target. The problem with that is destroyers especially, you can't sink destroyers with T5s because once you hit it in the rear, the hitbox of that part of the ship is dead. So you could hit it again and again and again with T5s in the rear, and the ship will never sink. It's never going to sink because you've done the maximum amount of damage to the rear of the ship that you possibly can. T5s are very, very useful in the rear tubes, the aft tubes of the boat. If you were being chased by an escort, you don't even have to aim. Pop one out the back and let it do its thing, right? That's the wonderful, wonderful part about T5s. Or if you have a monster-sized convoy, he's heading towards me. He's not inside sight range. Dive, dive hard. Dive hard, dive hard. What was I going to say? Yeah, if you had a big convoy ahead of you, and you're not really picking and choosing targets, you just need to hit everything, launch some T5s, they'll figure themselves out and go about their business. Some ships can be sunk with a T5. A decent hit on an Empire might do it. NA1s, absolutely one shot. Sometimes Corvettes, I'd say 50-50 chance on Corvettes, whether it sinks it or not. But anything larger than an Empire class, I wouldn't bother, like C3s and the like, because you're not going to do enough damage to take them down. So we've now explained all the types of torpedoes. They are slower. Plus, I forgot the quote unquote, best part about T5 torpedoes. They can turn around and hit you. If a T5 torpedo, like say you launch a T5 torpedo, and then your boat is making noise because obviously you're running or traveling or whatever, then it can turn around and kill you. 100%. They can also lose their way in a storm. So if you are in a storm and you choose to use a T5 torpedo, then they may not hit any targets whatsoever because they will lose their targets. Yes, so let's talk about the different triggers. That's important. Yes, I would advise you to fill the front of your boat with T3 torpedoes and put 2 T5s in the rear. Right, triggers. So you'll see, can I show you here? I'm not sure I can show you here or not. All right, triggers and pistols. So this T1 torpedo right here, it has a PI1 trigger. Sorry, pistol. So its detonation process is the most basic detonation process a torpedo can have. You can get, later on in the game, you can get torpedoes that have PI2, right? And they have better pistols, a better explosive train, which means they are less likely to dud, all right? So that's pistols. Basically, the higher the number, the better on pistols. When it comes to the trigger types, you've got impact triggers and magnetic triggers. The impact triggers are designed to strike a vessel, and technically speaking, if you use today's jargon, it's okay. The easiest way to put it is there's like a Coke can sticking out in front of the torpedo, and when that Coke can gets depressed, it blows up. That's pretty much what you have to take from that. The problem with a impact trigger is you have to think about the angle of the boat. Okay, and by the angle of the boat, I mean, okay, the boat is not flat, right? So even my boat, not only does it curve, like say you were a torpedo and heading in this direction, and you're heading in this direction, pwang, and you bounce off the side, right? Because you didn't depress the Coke can. It also deflects to the bottom. You see how the bottom of my boat curves down like this? So if you are a torpedo and you got a perfect 90-degree angle and you're coming in, pwang, and you go down. And both of those will count as duds. They didn't dud, they just failed to explode because they bounced off in the wrong direction. So impact triggers are best to be used at no more than, say, 2.5 meters depth. Otherwise, they'll bounce off the bottom of the boat, and you don't get any prizes for that. Now, how do we deal with that? What if we can't get a good angle on the ships? Then you got to switch to magnetic triggers. Magnetic triggers are designed to blow up within, let's call it, 2 feet of a heavy magnetic surface. So the magnetic triggers, if you can't get a good angle, or if you want to shoot really deep, and that's really key. Shooting deep does more damage technically. You use a magnetic trigger and it blows up when it gets near the target. It doesn't technically have to hit it. It just has to get really close. So you actually, 9 times out of 10, try to aim below the keel of your target so that it actually breaks the boat's back, essentially. You know what I'm saying? If this is all too technical, if I'm going too fast, everybody, please check out that video. It's not the best. I've got a video or two on the triggers, magnetic versus impact, etc. But I'm doing my best here, right? Okay, so I covered the types of torpedoes, I covered the pistols, I covered the triggers. Have I missed anything? Magnetic trigger of the highest damage potential, yes. Provided you can get it to blow up directly below the keel of your target ship, it can do the most amount of damage. I think I covered everything. If I didn't, please let me know and I will do my best to return to that subject. Question about T5s. What if it tracks you and you dive to 30? I'm not sure about 30, but I do know they will dive. I've been struck while underwater. Do all magnetic settings have a chance to explode? Yes, I really meant to ask to mention that. Sorry. When using magnetic triggers, there is a chance on every single torpedo that you fire that it will detonate prior to reaching its target. It's just part of how it is. You're talking about late 1930s, early 1940s tech. Sometimes they get confused, the magnetics go all wonky, and it goes boom. It will give you away because all the ships that you are currently tracking will see an explosion, so that's fair. You know what I mean? That's a fair assessment that it would give you away. Please bear that in mind. Depth is not a safe place of a T5. I don't know how far down it might chase you. I don't know. All I know is I've been hit at roughly periscope depth, right? Are T5s noise? Yes, they are. Yes, they are noise seekers. They will only ever hit, unless you happen to launch it at something that's coming directly for you. Sometimes they might clip the side, but for the most part, they will always hit in the rear. Turn off your engines, maximum speed 1, 100% speed 1. If you don't warm your torpedoes, by the way, you automatically introduce a 20 to 25% dud rate right off the hop. And it's all RNG. Like, you could have 4 duds in a row. I've seen it. I've seen it and done it, 4 duds in a row. So